So this is a complicated issue. It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray area. People don't like gray area. People don't like nuance. It's easy to grab onto one side or the other. But in reality, in the truth, it's in the middle. So I'm going to try to find some truth here. Let me first start off by saying that I'm a big fan of Kobe. If you don't know that, then I did a whole video talking about how he inspired me as an athlete, as a human, as a man, and why his death felt so real to so many of us. I did a whole video about that, and in that video, I did not one time mention the allegations that he faced in 2003, and it's not because I don't think that's something that's worthy of talking about. That's just not the first thing that came to my mind when he died. I think that part of the reason you're seeing the reaction from black men that you're seeing is because we are rightly afraid that we're going to be remembered by our worst moments. We're going to be memorialized by our worst moments. Kobe Bryant was a man who has won world championships in basketball 5 times, been the MVP, been one of the faces of the league. He's helped build up women's sports, not just basketball, but multiple sports. He's given pep talks to U.S. women's soccer teams, and he's been a global icon since he was about 19 years old. And yet, when he died, so many people jumped to his worst moment as a way to memorialize him. That is an issue for us as black men. It really means it doesn't matter what we do. Whatever the worst thing we did is, how you're going to write us down in your textbooks, and how you're going to talk about us. You're not going to talk about us as fully human beings. And it wasn't something that he did. It was something that it was allegedly done. So I think that we have a big issue with how this question keeps being posed. Let me say this as well. I don't think this is something that we can't talk about, because there's a lot to learn from this. And, if you really follow the Mamba mentality, right, he would tell you to watch your worst games. Look at your mistakes. Learn from those things. Let's learn from this. Let's use this as an opportunity to learn, right? We need to have this conversation because, and when I say we as black men need to have this conversation because black women suffer the most from rape culture. I'm always about protecting black women. I'm always about that. And, the sexual assault and the sexual abuse of black women is very high. It doesn't get reported as frequently, and it doesn't get believed as frequently. And that is something that needs to be changed. At the same time, Kobe's case was not that. And I think that when people talk about the allegations that he faced, they don't talk about the racial implications of being a white girl with a black man. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to go into the entire history of who that girl was and the evidence that was piled up against her. I'm not going to go through all that. I'm just going to talk about the peripherals of the case that people are forgetting when they talk about the context and how they discuss it, because people keep talking about that allegation as if it was something that he got away with, when that's not the perceived case to many of us. This is why, again, you need nuance. There was an alleged rape case. He wasn't found guilty. You can go look up the evidence yourself. None of us know what happened between those two. They told wildly conflicting stories, and none of us are going to know what actually went down besides those two. Now, some people talk about the letter that Kobe wrote, where he said that he felt like it was consensual, and after hearing her testimony, he could see why she felt like it wasn't. Now, to me, that seems like something, an empathetic young man who witnessed this young woman, seemingly be shamed. She was ashamed of all the information that was coming out. And I think that, someone with that much empathy who was willing to look at how this court case was not only hurting him, but was hurting the person who accused him of something, that's a lot of empathy. And that's not really one of the main traits of a sexual abuser, Not to mention the fact that it hasn't happened before that or after that, I think you have to look at the entire context if you're going to have that conversation. This is not a man who, had multiple accounts or there's multiple women. There was, you have to look at it accurately, and I don't think, again, that this should be the focus. That should not be the focus. Gayle King is a reporter. Gayle King's also a black woman. She's a very powerful black woman. She has a very large platform. And she's worked hard to get to where she is. She's really good friends with Oprah. And, both of them are successful black women. And no matter how you feel about them, you can't take that away. You cannot take that away from them. And I'm not comfortable with the level of disrespect that we are comfortable with showing these black women. We can disagree with them. I don't think that she should have asked those questions that way. I think she should have framed it differently. I think she should have given more context. I think she should have, shown more reverence. I think there's a lot of things that she could have done differently in that snippet that would have felt better. I also want to applaud Lisa Leslie for giving a very good answer and, standing on what she believes. But I don't think that we as black men need to attack Gayle King and tear her down and tear down her platform and ruin her career and make her feel unsafe. That is not what black unity is about. That's not what it's about at all. We can disagree and be civil. We can disagree without name calling. We have better words than that. She can get the message without resorting to threats. And and I understand that pain that when losing Kobe made everybody feel, and I understand wanting to protect that legacy, but there's bigger enemies than Gayle King and Oprah, and if you feel like they're attacking our culture, you're doing by attacking them, you're not improving the situation. Now you're causing a fight within ourselves. That is not what we want to do. And I don't think that's what Kobe would want us to do. I don't think that's at all what he would want. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would want to try to tear down a black woman for asking questions and not framing the question properly. I would like us as black men to... I said this many times. I don't feel like we do a good enough job protecting our black women. And I don't know why we feel so comfortable threatening and talking to them that way. And we don't do the same thing to white people when they do that. We don't do the same thing to white women. We don't do the same thing. Where's the anger at Rush Limbaugh getting the Medal of Free... That's it. To me, that's an in-house conversation. You can show disapproval with Gayle King, and not be that disrespectful and not take it to that level. It does not have to go to that level. And I think that we have to change, because to me, that pushes it into a whole nother territory, right? Now it's no longer a conversation. We're sending threats to black women, and we are promoting, we're entering a space where confrontation and violence can happen between male and females, which would be assault again, and that's not what we want. When I look at what Kobe did, right, and I look at what his life is about, this is a part of his life. It is a part of his legacy, and it will be discussed. Just like him and Shaq, you know, their departure, that'll be discussed. Just like, um, just like him and his parents, you know, them having a falling out. If you made a movie, all of these things would be in there. You can't make the movie of Kobe's life without having that chapter. So of course it's up for discussion and it needs to be discussed. I just think it needs to be discussed with proper context, and I think it needs to be discussed in a way that we can learn something. There's an opportunity here to learn. There's an opportunity here to push the culture forward in a meaningful way, in a way that I think would make Kobe proud, in a way that would unite us instead of divide us. Because right now we're dividing ourselves over an interview. We're tearing down, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, again, I'm not acting like, you know, Gayle King is Angela Davis here. You know, I'm not saying that. But she is a black woman with a large platform who is inspiring other black women and showing them that they could be on TV, they could be on Good Morning America, they could have nationally syndicated shows, they could have, you know, key interviews. She's showing them, you know, she's showing them a pathway, and she's been doing it with a lot of grace. I might not always like her decisions. I might not like how she talks about things. I might not like what they talk about. I'm not the biggest supporter all the time of everything that she does, but I can do that. I can disagree with respect. It doesn't have to be disrespectful. I think a lot of times people are afraid to talk about situations like this because they don't want to be ostracized, and they don't want to fall on the wrong side of the coin. And, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of dudes who are upset with me because I'm not flat out condemning Gayle King. And I'm not saying what she did was okay. I'm just not okay with speaking to black women in that tone. I think you can correct each other. We can correct each other. Black women can correct us. We can correct them. We can have open dialogue. We can say, yo, look, that's not how we're going to talk about Kobe's legacy without taking it to that point. But I know there's people that are going to be upset with me for saying that. And I know there's going to be women that are upset with me for saying that, for believing that, you know, Kobe did not do that. And that's okay with me. You know, I want to, again, I think we need more nuance. I think you have to be able to look at the context of everything, and it's not as simple as some people like to make it seem. Either way, you know, like, you know, sometimes everybody can be wrong. You know, it's never going to be a right time to talk about the faults of one of your heroes. But it's also, we also will not allow one of our heroes to be defined by those faults. You know, like that does not define him. That was not his defining moment, and that's not the legacy that he left. You know, so I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. I'd love to know what you think about that. I'd love to know where you sit, how this sits with you. You know, so drop some comments. You know, let me know what you're thinking.
Vroom.